Reports are suggesting that Bojan Bogdanovic is available for trade, and NBA experts are saying that the Raptors should be the front runner to trade for the Utah Jazz forward. But in today's video, I'm going to explain to you why this trade would be a huge mistake for the Raptors and why they should not have any sort of interest. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Hour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I bring you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. So if you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're getting so close to 11,000 subscribers. You can help us along the way. And if you find yourself enjoying this video along the way, be sure to drop a like. Let's get to 350 likes on today's video. I know that we can do it, but today's video is going to be about the Raptors and the rumors surrounding them being a potential trade candidate for the Utah Jazz forward Bojan Bogdanovic. It's pretty clear at this point that the Utah Jazz are going to be entering the Victor Webanyama sweepstakes. They trade away Rudy Gobert for an outrageous haul of players and picks. It looks like they're going to be doing the same with Donovan Mitchell. So what's the sense of having Bojan Bogdanovic on the team? Not really a ton of sense there. The Utah Jazz are going to be looking to cash in on the player with only 1 year left on his contract. And these sort of rumors were sparked on the Low Post podcast hosted by Zach Lowe and one of his guests for the show, Tim McMahon. Also, shout out Zach Lowe for being one of the very few American NBA media analysts who shows consistent respect to the Raptors and actually treats them like a franchise in the NBA, not just some footnote in the landscape of everything. Also, shout out guys like Brian Windhorst for doing the same thing. But nonetheless, Tim McMahon on the Low Post podcast said that Bojan Bogdanovic is going to be available for trade, and the Raptors should be the first in line trying to make that happen. So what we want to do in today's video, we want to discuss what sort of offer the Raptors are going to have to give in order to make this trade happen. Then we're going to discuss the talent that Bojan Bogdanovic has, and then we're going to discuss the fit of Bogdanovic finally. And I'm going to let you know right now, it's not going to be a good fit. Make sure you stick around to find out why. So for starters, Bojan Bogdanovic, what are the Raptors going to have to do to actually make this trade happen? And the most difficult thing about this trade is going to be balancing out everything financially. Bojan Bogdanovic is a good player, and he's making $19.3 million this season with around $200,000 in incentives. So in and around that $19.4 million range. The Raptors, if they want to make this trade happen, are going to have to balance out that salary. And there are some difficult ways to get it done, but the Raptors can get it done in a multitude of ways. I think that the easiest way to get this done would be to trade OG Anunoby, who's making just above $17 million this season, along with some other salary filler like, let's say, Semi Hyluk, and that makes it work out. Or you can also do Gary Trent along with Semi Hyluk in order to make that happen. And if you want to avoid trading one of those players, you could also go to Chris Boucher, making $12.5 million this season, and throw in somebody like Khem Birch to balance out the salaries as well. These are all ways in order to make that trade happen, but for the Utah Jazz, they are definitely looking right now to not be good next season. Again, they're going for Wembanyama, they're going for Scoot Henderson, they're going for all these guys in the draft. They want to have a bad team, so they don't want to get great players in return. They are looking to get picks. The Utah Jazz are going to be looking to get picks. The Raptors, who don't have like the best depth, I think it's a lot better this season. In fact, I'm pretty excited about the depth that they have this season. I don't know if they can afford to trade away two pieces of their bench in Boucher and Khem Birch. And they're also, on top of that, going to have to give away picks, at least one first-round pick, in order to bring in these services of Bojan Bogdanovic. As far as OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr., I really don't think Utah are going to get a pick if that trade were to happen. I don't even think the Raptors would be interested in doing trades with either of those two players. But to bring in a player of that caliber, well, I don't know how it's going to look if you trade away like a first-round pick and you're going to have him playing on the bench. You give away Boucher, you give away Khem Birch, you give away a pick, and you're getting a guy who's going to be on the bench for your team. It kind of feels like if you're bringing in Bogdanovic, you're bringing him in order to be a starter. You want him to have that shooting edge that the team maybe does lack in a few areas. Gary Trent obviously provides it, and maybe there's not a lot of other shooting out there. And a 6'8" forward who can shoot the three ball very well, I might say, like, that's somebody that you would probably want to piece into the starting lineup, which means now you have to get rid of one of the other guys in the starting lineup. So even if you don't trade Trent or Anunoby, Maybe one of them has to come out of the starting lineup. Is that the best endeavor for the Raptors to proceed with? I'm not so sure, but maybe the Raptors feel like, hey, Bojan Bogdanovic is a good player. If you look at his stats from last season, they are pretty impressive. Around 18 points per game, along with decent shooting, 45% from the field and 39% from three. Again, like, this is a guy who can shoot the ball very well, has some good height, rebounds the ball decently. Not the best passer of the ball, though. This guy is like a good player who's going to put up points. He's got a lot of offensive weapons, the three ball being the primary one for him. That's somebody the Raptors could definitely use. But Bojan Bogdanovic, for the stuff he has offensively, he also doesn't have the stuff defensively. Bojan Bogdanovic, to put it bluntly, is not a very good defender. The Raptors are a team who really want to have 5 good defenders on the court at all time. They want everybody on the court to be switchable. They want everybody on the court to be able to defend pretty much any position. They rotate heavy. They switch heavy. That's the way they've operated for the last few years. Bogdanovic coming in would kind of shake that up, and he would really not fit into the defensive schematics deployed by Nick Nurse. Obviously, a lot of talent offensively, and, for NBA analysts like Tim McMahon, who maybe aren't watching the Raptors a ton, and they're kind of looking like, well, the Raptors need to space their offense a little bit more. Here's a guy who can shoot the ball. Here's a guy who can come in the team and make a difference from a shooting standpoint, create more space for the likes of Siakam or the ascending Scotty Barnes. And, on the surface, maybe that theory does make sense, but the lack of athleticism, the lack of defense makes me question this fit with the Raptors, which we now need to get into. Bojan Bogdanovic coming into this team, like I said, you're probably bringing him in to start. If you're bringing him in to start, one of Gary Trent or OG Anunoby needs to probably come out of the starting lineup, or you're making this big trade in order to get somebody who's going to come off your bench, and maybe that does add a lot of shooting to your bench, but for a 33-year-old with 1 year left on his contract, making $19.34 million, does that seem like the best trade for the Raptors to make? I mean, the fit with the team, I've already discussed. Like, this is a guy who, sure, is going to do some good things offensively, but ultimately, I feel like based on the players that we have with the team, he would be a big liability defensively. He would be somebody that we wouldn't want to have on the court in a lot of situations, especially in the crunch time of a lot of games. I just feel like this is not a guy you want to have on your floor if you're the Toronto Raptors, because the liability defensively, like, that's what teams are going to target on the other end of the court. And I'm not trying to suggest Bogdanovic isn't a good player. Like, he's shown to be a very good offensive player. He's shown to have some clutch moments in some clutch games. Like, he's had some decent playoff performances. He's got a lot of playoff experience, maybe not deep playoff experience, because he's played for the Utah Jazz and the Eastern Conference version of the Utah Jazz and the Indiana Pacers. So, the playoff success isn't quite there, but we've seen Bogdanovic hit some big shots, some clutch shots late in games, and sure, I'm not questioning what this guy can do offensively at all. I'm not questioning that at all. I am 100% questioning the defense that he has. I am 100% questioning the fact that he makes more money than OG Anunoby. He makes more money than Gary Trent Jr. I'm questioning the fact that he is 33 years old, and I'm big time questioning the fact that he has 1 year left on his contract. What would be the incentive for the Raptors to make this trade? On the surface, and admittedly, Tim McMahon didn't really go in depth on the fit here, but it's pretty easy to look at this and go that this doesn't make any sense at all for the Toronto Raptors to do. You're trading away some pieces that would be important to your team. I would say the most likely would be like Boucher and Birch. Birch is whatever. He can go. Like, I don't think he's going to have a big role the Raptors this season. Boucher, that would be a definite loss for your bench, and you're also going to give away a pick in order to make this trade happen. Bojan Bogdanovic would be a great piece for a contender to acquire. I don't know if that's going to happen in the offseason, but maybe by the deadline. You could trade away a first-round pick for that season, and you're a good team, so that first-round pick is going to have the most value. Utah, I guess, get a little extra piece for the rebuilding process that they've just begun here, and, a contending team gets an offensive weapon that's going to help them in the playoff. They get an offensive weapon who's going to help space their floor, who's going to knock down some big-time three-pointers, and that makes sense for those teams because, he's on an expiring contract, that's off the books after one season. You're not really losing a ton of things. But for the Raptors here, we have to be honest here. We're not legitimate contenders this season. And if we were, even still, I'm more comfortable with any of the 5 starters that we already have on our team than I am with Bojan Bogdanovic, even if he maybe could add some stuff to our bench. This is the type of trade that you make when you really need that extra piece to just help you get, maybe 2, 3, 4 extra playoff wins, because those things can be the difference between winning a series and losing a series. And in these fine margins of the NBA playoffs, like, that is valuable. That is the difference between winning a ring and not winning a ring. But we have to be honest with ourselves as Toronto Raptors fans. Are we at the point where we need to make a trade like this to mortgage some good assets, mortgage part of our future with that first round pick? I mean, those picks, again, are so valuable to the Toronto Raptors. Do we need to go out and get Bojan Bogdanovic? Like, does it really change the dynamic of this team and really alter their ceiling? In my opinion, it's a pretty easy no to that question. So for that reason, I would be completely out on this trade if I was the Toronto Raptors. Again, there hasn't really been any concrete reports. It's just Tim McMahon on the Low Post podcast kind of speculating, hey, Raptors should be first in line to try to make this trade happen. Masai Ujiri would be far from first in line to get this done. This trade is not going to happen. So what do you guys think about the potential of the Raptors trading for Bojan Bogdanovic? Do you think it's a good fit? What would you trade in order to get him? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today's video. Thank you so much for watching this one. If you did enjoy along the way, be sure to drop a like on the video. When you like this video, YouTube sees that you like it, and therefore it recommends this video to people with similar interests to you. It ends up on more recommended pages, and it does help me out a lot, and it only takes you just a few seconds to drop that like. And make sure, if you have not done so already, that you subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports, and in return, I'm going to give you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news all throughout the offseason and into the new season as well. You can also help us on a road to 11,000 subscribers. I'll see you again next time for another video.